Yeah, did you watch the episode when Tulsi Gabbard got on to defend herself and Joy Behar starts panicking and going over her notes while Tulsi is refuting everything that she said?
Yeah, I mean, Joy Behar, like, again, these people have dementia. These are people who, like, should not be allowed out of the house. They have a national platform. I mean, it is crazy. They have no idea. These people have never read, like, a book.
I agree with mostly everything that's been said. I mean, we know that, only about 31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system. And, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he's been trained his whole life.
Sunny host just tripped over for $150 million fraud scandal starring her own husband. And before she could even fake a shocked face on The View, Joe Rogan and Bill Maher tag-teamed her reputation from two completely different shows. One brought the facts, the other brought the flamethrower spoiler. Neither brought tissues. What did they say? Why is Sunny sweating like it's tax season? Buckle up. Because this meltdown is hotter than her husband's offshore accounts.
Life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
The Sunny host, the undisputed queen of daytime moral superiority, just found out the hard way that life doesn't come with a fraud-proof vest while she was busy schooling America on law order. And virtue from her comfy perch on The View, her own husband was allegedly out here trying to beat the entire financial system at Monopoly. Except this version came with a federal indictment and for $150 million worth of red flags.
The Sunny Hostin that we all love from one of my favorite shows, on The View, and it's always, Tom, what'd you always say? It's always the people that always do the pointing, and it always comes back to them, all right? So when you said, this is the largest RICO case ever filed in the state of New York, you guys wrap that around your brain. That's bigger than the mafia case. Like the mafia one was number one. This one takes it over. So he was scamming insurance companies.
Yes, you heard that right, for $150 million, not a typo, not even a rounding error. That's the kind of number that makes Wall Street jealous and Ponzi schemes nostalgic, it turns out. While Sunny was handing out verdicts like Halloween candy, her spouse might have been crafting an entirely different curriculum one that involves offshore accounts, creative billing, and an apparent allergy to anything resembling an IRS form asterisk asterisk.
The View has to be if you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Hostin's
You think it's
dumb.
deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on, for sure. I don't think Sunny's dumb. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a wealth.
For enter Joe Rogan now, Joe isn't exactly the guy you go to for tea and crumpets. He's the guy who invites conspiracy theorists and neuroscientists to the same table just to see what happens. So naturally, when he caught wind of the scandal, he didn't quietly raise an eyebrow. No, he practically set the whole credibility circus on fire and handed Sunny's public persona a one-way ticket to Rose City.
She is not implicated in the lawsuit at all, but it's just, I mean, you're married. Tom, you're married. If your husband's doing something, if he's allegedly doing something like this, you guys would know if your wives were up to some nefarious stuff. But let's just not forget who she is. She's been, for years, lecturing America about morality, inequality, systemic failures. And look at her track record. How many times has she had to go on in the past 2 months and look at the camera and do a legal apology for all the stuff that she said on the show? And then she also, on Trump's win, calling the loss because of uneducated white women that Trump won.
We have to know that. This is accused.
All accused. Yeah, all accused. But he's in the RICO. This is a big RICO case that her husband's...
Joe treated the story like it was his latest MMA takedown first round, point out the irony. So thick it could be sliced with a samurai sword, a legal expert whose household allegedly invented new ways to commit white-collar fraud you couldn't write. That for a Netflix drama without someone accusing you of lazy satire. But it wasn't just the fraud. It was the media's silence that got Joe going the same talk show that reacts to every celebrity mishap, but DEFCON 1 energy suddenly turned into a monastery when one of their own landed in legal quicksand. The hypocrisy practically lit itself on fire. Joe couldn't help but marvel at how the rules change when someone from the elite liberal echo chamber is in the hot seat. If this had been a random tech bro, a conservative commentator, or heaven forbid someone with a MAGA hat, The coverage would have had a special segment, sound effects, and possibly a live countdown to sentencing. Instead, what we got was a collective shrug and an awkward subject change, the legal equivalent of a friend calling from jail, and everyone just pretending the phone never rang. Joe went on a full-blown tangent about how virtue-signaling media figures love to play referee until the game involves their own family. Then suddenly, it's all about privacy and context. Rogan, in his usual bulldozer style, questioned everything from mainstream media priorities to why these legal analysts can't seem to spot crime in their own living rooms.
Well, I had a different question, but it struck me that in the first segment you used the term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything. And I know that you're...
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected.
Yeah.
So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term, because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
Was going full gladiator with his sarcasm and intensity. Bill Maher entered the ring in a tuxedo, sipping a cocktail and brandishing wit like a scalpel. Maher's takedown wasn't loud, but it was lethal. He didn't need a podcast studio or a sweat-stained microphone. He had a polished monologue and a smirk that said, "I've been waiting for this for years." He laid the groundwork for son Hostin, the upholder of all things righteous, now facing a personal PR disaster of Shakespearean proportions. Not because she herself got indicted, but because her entire public image is built around the idea that she's smarter, better, and more lawful than you. So when the FBI comes knocking on her husband's door with questions about hundreds of millions vanishing into financial Bermuda triangles, it doesn't just ruin brunch. It implodes the entire brand. Bill Maher took the story apart with the cold efficiency of a surgeon who's just too tired to pretend it's his first time. He pointed out the absurdity of someone who lectures America on integrity suddenly being surrounded by enough scandal to fuel 3 seasons of a prestige crime series. And unlike Rogan, who went for the scorched earth spectacle, Maher used detachment as a weapon. He didn't rage, he chuckled, he didn't shout, he sighed dramatically. He made it clear this wasn't just a scandal. This was a masterclass in selective outrage.
I get it. I also hate Joy Behar. So I don't love you, but I also hate that squawking bird. So I hate the whole thing. And frankly, that show, you want to talk about a show that set women back, is The View. You want to talk about that show. If the CIA is engineering, Antifa and fucking the Capitol riot, some crazy misogynist engineered The View, because there's nothing worse than The View. In terms of, like, there are so many brilliant women out there. None of them are on The View. None of them have gone near the set of The View. I mean, they have brought in the lowest tier of the, what is it, the Y chromosome?
No, double
The
X.
Okay.
Double X.
They brought in the lowest of the double X's for that one. It's
Because let's be 7 roles were reversed if this exact same fraud case involved the spouse of a Republican senator, a conservative analyst, or literally anyone with different political views to her. Sonny would have lit the studio on fire with indignation. There would be monologues, there would be tears, there would be charts. But now silence, awkward eye contact, and probably a memo from ABC PR that reads something like, "Do not under any circumstances mention that your husband was indicted for orchestrating a multi-million-dollar scam network." Maher savored that irony like fine wine. He didn't need to scream, the story screamed for itself. The public moral is caught up in a private embarrassment so colossal it deserves its own headline font, and that's where the story really gets good, because when you combine Rogan's UFC ground and pound analysis with Maher's scalpel-sharp satire, you get the rarest of cultural phenomena, agreement between two people who don't agree on anything ever. Rogan and Maher might as well be living on opposite planets. One spends his weekends in sensory deprivation tanks, the other in HBO studios lamenting the fall of Western civilization. But when it came to the host and scandal, they shared one reaction: uncontrollable disbelief wrapped in mockery. And the kicker, neither of them even needed Sonny to say anything. Her silence was the punchline.
First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no fucking thing as karma, okay? Get over that. Whoopi attacks me on a regular basis. She says stupid shit on a regular basis. They just happen to coincide.
She sat on national television saying absolutely nothing about the criminal investigation unfolding in her own home. Both men filled in the blanks with fire flare And enough sarcasm to power 1,000 TikTok stitches Rogan painted them. Media as complicit cowards, Maher painted them as moral contortionists together. They expose what happens when media elites spend so long on pedestals. They forget what accountability looks like. And what of the view that paragon of televised righteousness, where every topic gets dissected like a high school fraud, suddenly developed a case of collective amnesia, no discussions, no segments, no this is personal. But it's important, just silence, as if the biggest legal scandal attached to one of their own just didn't exist. It was like watching a fire alarm go off in a bakery, while everyone insists the smell is just overcooked toast. The View managed to look past a $450 million fraud case, with the kind of tunnel vision usually reserved for Olympic sprinters. Meanwhile, Maher and Rogan were doing what actual commentators should be doing, calling out the inconsistency, mocking the double standards, and reminding the public that if you're going to claim the moral high ground, you better make damn sure your foundation isn't made of federal indictments. Rogan laughed at the absurdity. Maher dissected the arrogance.
Strange show, but it's fun to watch. It's just fun to watch them.
It's good entertainment.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
Well, they're just, it's interesting because I think Sunny is very intelligent, but she's ideologically captured.
Right.
That's sort of, I think the other ones, there's a couple of the other ones, don't have to name any names, who are just very dull-minded. But I think Sunny's not one of them. I think she's smart but captured.
Sure, I think she came into it with an agenda.
Of course. They do everything with an agenda.
Yeah.
A swift cultural spanking to the idea that elite media voices get to skip the accountability cue just because they know which fork to use at dinner. And the funniest part, this wasn't a smear campaign, it was an observational comedy. No need for conspiracy theories or internet sleuthing. The facts were loud, the optics were louder. And the silence from Sunny was the loudest of all. Here's a woman who made a career out of explaining complex legal issues in plain English, suddenly rendered mute when the legal complexity walks right through her front door. Wearing handcuffs, Rogan treated it like a cautionary tale about unchecked egos in the media. Maher treated it like a tragedy disguised as satire in America. America watched as two very different voices reached the same conclusion. The moral pyramid scheme is collapsing, and the people at the top are pretending it's just a minor earthquake, and really that's the legacy of this story. Not just that a talk show host husband allegedly committed enough fraud to qualify for a Wall Street starter pack, not just that Joe Rogan and Bill Maher dunked on it so hard it echoed.
Interesting that it's called, I don't think they meant this when Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
Well,
that's the problem in America. There is one view,
right, and
one
that's clearly
true opinion, and everybody else can go sit in the corner.
That's correct. I think that's not.
But in the face of genuine scandal, the people who usually scream the loudest suddenly became mimes. You don't need a smoking gun when the hypocrisy is doing cartwheels on national TV. You just need someone to point and laugh, and this time Joe and Bill were more than happy to volunteer if hypocrisy had a loyalty program. Sunny Huss would be platinum, and if silence were an Olympic sport, she'd be on the podium with a gold medal and a stunned expression at the View. Moral outrage is typically brewed fresh every morning, steamed, stirred, and served with a side of smug. But lately, that kitchen's gone suspiciously quiet. The usual piping hot lectures on justice ethics and what decent people do have been replaced with a cold silence that's louder than a megaphone at a silent retreat, because when one of their own is embroiled in a $450 million fraud scandal, the show's so-called commitment to transparency folds faster than a cheap lawn chair at a WWE match. You can practically see the production team sweating through their pastel cardigans. Okay, ladies, today we'll passionately dissect criminal justice reform, but let's not touch the high-profile federal arrest involving someone's husband to triggering suddenly the justice. Warriors of daytime TV are allergic to, well, actual justice, the sheer acrobatics involved in dodging. That storyline should qualify them for Olympic gold.
Overwhelming my past couple days. So I just went in there, did my thing. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know who Sunny Hostin was. I actually still really don't know. So I wasn't expecting necessarily for her to kind of try to ambush me in that way and attack my character in that way.
Well, it is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies infested
legal analyst extraordinaire is somehow missing in action. Just when the legal part became relevant, what are the odds? But here's the kicker, this selective amnesia isn't just an awkward hiccup, it's becoming the rule. Accountability now comes with a loyalty clause if you're on the right side. Your scandals are quietly escorted out the back door, preferably during a commercial break. If you're not then every misstep is magnified like a zit under a magnifying mirror. What used to be speaking truth to power has morphed into speaking truth. Only if it won't make brunch uncomfortable. This is where Rogan and Maher come in the unlikely adventures of inconvenient truth. They're not playing nice, they're not playing safe, they're definitely not signing off with Fox empathy and finger wagging. They've simply pointed out what the rest of the media is too spineless to say if you're going to build your career on moral superiority. You better make damn sure your own closet isn't rattling with diamond-encrusted skeletons. Because right now, Sonny's household is giving off luxury crime drama energy, and her co-workers are pretending. It's just a weird draft in the studio, so now if her $150 million fraud case hasn't just toppled the pedestal, it's blown a hole through the entire set of performative punditry. It's not just about one person's hypocrisy, it's about the whole circus act of do. As I say, not as I conceal.
Their audience is not really their audience. Their audience is a group of people they bring in to watch television shows. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen audiences before for TV shows, but a lot of them are paid. They're paid to be there. So, because they have to guarantee that there's going to be people there. So there's services that you hire. And when a show gets really, really popular, you know, like Letterman or something like that, obviously it has its own fan base.
Right.
Those people will try to get tickets before anybody else does. And in that case, they probably don't need to use a service anymore. They just get actual fans. But arguably, like, the fans, the real fans of The View that are like, oh, these ladies are on point, most of those people can't leave the house.
You can't even pretend to be the moral compass anymore. That needle's spinning like a blender on turbo, and here's the roast when Joe Rogan and Bill Maher, to men who couldn't agree on what to order at a diner, both find your moral high ground laughable. Maybe it's time to cancel the TED Talk and start hosting a game show. Working title: Whose husband defrauded for $150 million? Spoiler alert, we already know the answer. But hey, maybe next week The View will run a segment on accountability. Just not that accountability. Maybe they'll invite a guest expert to discuss financial ethics, preferably someone whose husband hasn't allegedly turned healthcare billing into $1 billion improv game. Until then, thank you, Joe Rogan and Bill Maher, for reminding America that sometimes it takes a podcaster and a political comedian to do the media's job. And if anyone sees Sonny tell her moral soapbox has been repossessed, probably by the same people who seized her husband's assets, because in a world where outrage is currency, it turns out the most bankrupt voices are the ones that yell the loudest until the FBI shows